Hello, hello. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Just setting up here a little bit. Be with you in just one moment. Today we are going to talk about buying an oud. Types of ouds, particularly. So thank you for joining me, and we'll get started shortly. Just one moment. Okay, thanks for joining me, guys. Today we're going to talk about types of ouds. This is going to help you, I hope, to help you choose the right oud for you. If you are looking for an oud, then this is the right video to be watching right now. Alright, let's see who's here. Thanks for the great videos. My dream is to buy an Arabic Oud. Alright, cool. Been looking for Godan Oud. Is Godan Oud considered the best electric oud out there? Good question. I hope you make a video about Nasser Shama one day. What could I say about Nasser Shama, I wonder? His reputation precedes him, does it not? Alright, we've got Mastana here. Issue of being really short and getting the arm over the body of the oud comfortably. What are the different sizes? Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. Okay, so we'll try to address all that in this video, and hopefully you guys have more questions too. I accidentally closed my notes, so just a moment here. Let me bring everything back up. Okay. Alright, so this video is going to talk about types of ouds and characteristics of different ouds. And then tomorrow's video is going to talk about oud makers. In this video, I'm going to talk about the types of ouds, and also I'm going to give you a recommendation of of the ouds that I think are the best ouds for the price. Especially if you're starting out, especially for beginners. If you're looking for an entry-level oud, what's the best oud you can get that's safe, reliable, trustworthy? I'll tell you exactly where you can get such an oud. So first step is to decide what kind of oud you want, especially when you're buying an oud. And there are mainly two types of ouds: Arabic ouds and Turkish ouds. Arabic ouds, in the Arabic oud genre, there are some subtypes. So in the Arabic oud realm, you have the Syrian oud, Egyptian ouds, North African ouds, and you have Iraqi ouds. The differences between them are very subtle. It depends on the style of music, the sound that you want. For a beginner, it's not gonna be easy to hear the difference between the sounds of those different ouds. So I talk about them very generally. Then we have the Turkish oud. The Turkish oud has a different quality, different sound, different characteristic to it. Very similar design, but very different sound, very different type of music that's being played on it as well. So yeah, let's go through that. There are also Iranian ouds made in Iran. Iranian ouds have really developed maybe over the last 30 years. Before that, it was less common in Iran. But nowadays, especially in the last maybe 15 years, a lot of Iranian makers are becoming very good at making the oud, and becoming very skilled at making it. There are a lot of Iranian oud makers out there as well now. So yeah, let's get into this. So types of ouds by region. So we discussed the three types of ouds, three main types: Iranian oud, Arabic oud, Turkish oud. Now Iranian ouds and Arabic ouds, they have a very similar quality. You could again lump in Iranian ouds with Arabic ouds for simplicity's sake. But Iranian ouds have their own characteristic for the right sound of their music. So yeah, let's go. So you find the sound of Arabic ouds are going to be very romantic sounding, has a deep, round, well-balanced sound. The highest strings, cut through. This is an example of Arabic oud. This one is a Syrian oud, made by the Syrian company Zeryab. And usually, for the most part, they have three sound holes. They've got 11 strings, usually tuned from C here to C here. You have C, G, D, A, F, and C. Now, sometimes the bass strings are different. Nowadays, there's another tuning that is used on the oud in the Arab world, which is F to F. So we have, instead of the bass string, we have just this fa string here, this bass one, in place of the bass, and then we have an extra high F string above this C here. So that increases the range of the oud. So the sound of the Arabic oud is kind of like this. Just give you a sound example. Very percussive sound, but also very nice, mellow, round, bassy sound as well. And let's get into the construction a little bit. So the Arabic oud, there's many different designs of the Arabic oud from region to region. There with the Arabic oud, some makers, I've heard them say that, when they get an Arabic oud, they really don't know what to expect when they look inside, and there's not a lot of standardization. The standard oud that we know now, that most ouds have been designed upon, are the Nahat family ouds from Syria. And their oud model, their style, is what most ouds are replicated on nowadays. But there's a lot of variation between with the bracing, depending on the maker's intuition and what they want to create, what kind of resonance they want to create, if they want to make it more bassy soundy, more middle frequency sounds, or high frequency sounds. The string length of the oud is going to vary quite a lot. This is an Arabic oud, but it's 58.5 centimeters from the bridge to the nut. So this is actually scale length of Turkish ouds. And they make it this size for playability reasons. But other Arabic ouds tend to be a bit longer than Turkish ouds. So we have 60 centimeters from bridge to nut. We also have 61.5. A lot of Arabic ouds, Egyptian ouds, are made with the 61.5 centimeter range from bridge to nut. And so that is basically the construction side of it. When it comes to Arabic and Turkish ouds, another feature of Arabic ouds is that they might be a little bit heavier built than Turkish ouds. The soundboard is going to be a little bit thicker in general than Turkish ouds. Turkish ouds are a bit thinner in general. This is very generally speaking. I'm no oud builder, but these are the basics basically. So this is the sound of the Arabic oud. What I really like about Arabic ouds is the sound of the high register. Very nice string sound you have there, and really rhythmical. There's this round bounciness flavor that you get with Arabic ouds. And what I really like is that it's a very dry sound. There's a quick decay in the note. There's not a lot of sustain. Now let's take a look at the Turkish oud. Now, one thing I must say before, as you listen to this next oud, is that the price point between these two ouds are quite different. Okay, so this is like around, $500 to $600, $700 oud. But the next oud you see here is quite is a big difference. Over $2,000 Turkish oud, and the sound quality is of course going to be different. But this is an example of how it sounds. So what I want to point out to you is that the Turkish oud, there's a lot more sustain, a lot more resonance. It's I like to think that it's more in line with Western orchestra instruments in that regard. It's not as percussive. There's some percussiveness. You can hear that percussiveness there. But you hear that echo? That's pretty wild echo. Sorry for if there's if it's quite loud. So a lot of echo there. Like it's pretty wild in that regard. So the Turkish oud is going to be a little bit smaller bowl, a little bit smaller body than say Egyptian ouds or Syrian ouds. Look at the difference between this one. This is the Turkish oud here, and then the bowl shape is a completely different design, and very bulbous, quite wide face. So there are some different shape characteristics. This is a bit more comfortable to play in that regard too. Materials that they tend to use. Turkish ouds tend to be uncoated. This has some French polish on it. This is actually Turkish made, but it's supposed to be an Arabic oud. So but you can take that with a grain of salt, if you will. But anyway, usually Turkish ouds are going to be uncoated, no polish, and that's got to do with the sound that they want to create from it. A lot of Arabic ouds do have some coating. Both of these ouds are cedar tops with coating. I don't know what kind of polish they use. This is a French polish or a shellac on the Turkish oud, and then I don't know what's on the other one. But it is clearly treated. You can see the polish there. That again is another feature about the sounds. But most Turkish ouds, traditional Turkish ouds, do not have any coating on the soundboard, and they do that for the sound, characteristics that they want to get out of it. Of course, another big thing about Turkish ouds and Arabic ouds is that the sound difference, and also usually the tuning of Turkish ouds are going to be one step higher than Arabic. So we got the tuning here: D, A, E, B, F sharp, and then I've got this tune to B, extra low B. The bass strings, of course, are always variable. So yeah, different tuning, a little bit different tuning. So there's a bit of a register difference, and that does affect the sound. Higher pitched instruments are going to sound a bit more brighter than, say, a lower pitched instrument. That's just the reality of the frequencies and how that works. Okay, let's keep going here. So Turkish ouds tend to be found and used in like places like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Greece, and sometimes in some other places too. Now Turkish builders are making ouds for Arab tastes as well, so you find them everywhere now. Um, let's see here, what else can we say about it? So they're very bright sounding. They tend to be more on the bright side, and Arabic ouds tend to sound a little bit more round, mellow, but nice, good bass sounding. Turkish ouds also have a good bass sound as well. Yeah. So the first thing I recommend when it comes to actually buying an oud, especially if you're a beginner, decide what type of oud you want to buy, and the way you do that is you go back to the first oud that you ever heard, the first oud that you ever fell in love with. Find out who that player was, whether they're from Turkey. Find out what kind of oud they have, and then look into that. If you're going to play Turkish music, or if you're interested in Turkish instrumental pieces, or you like that kind of thing, you like the sound, then maybe a Turkish oud is better for you. If you're going to learn Turkish music, then you want to play an oud that you can tune to the Turkish tuning. That's very important. If you want to play Arabic music, or your favorite oud players are Arabic players, then it's likely that you want to find an Arabic oud. Something that can be tuned lower is better for the low frequencies, and want an oud that's designed for that low mellow, and also for that little bit of percussive sound that it has. Iranian ouds, when it comes to Iranian, if you want to play Iranian music, there's a whole spectrum that you could go to. You may want to get a Turkish oud if you like Turkish sound. You may want to get an Arabic oud. It's really up to you. I've heard both types of ouds used in Persian music, and both seem to work well depending on how you play the oud as well. All right, so that's what I would recommend when it comes to buying your first oud. Find out what oud sound you fell in love with for the first time, and then go look for that type of oud. But before I get into some other types, let's see if there's any comments here about that you wanted me to address. Let's see here. Got a lot of comments here. Okay, let's address some of these questions before I get into the other things, and especially you're going to hear about my recommendations for buying your first oud and where I recommend to get an oud. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so addressing small sizes, people who are smaller build. I'm not the largest guy, but I prefer large ouds. One thing you can do if you have a small body, when it comes to holding the oud, do this. You don't need to hold it parallel to your chest. You can hold it at an angle. That allows for your arm to get around. That's really important. You can angle out like this, and you can still play fine. You don't have to hold it like this. See, my shoulder is really getting over it like this. That's not that comfortable. So what's comfortable for me, I'm just sitting normally. The oud kind of sits in this pocket between my arm and my chest and my leg, and that's a way that you can comfortably hold pretty much any oud, I think, anyway. If you are really small, then you may want to get a smaller oud made for you, maybe a Turkish size oud. Turkish size ouds, most of them are going to be comfortable for anyone, I think. I mean, This one is a pretty standard size, but it's not that large. It's super comfortable to play. Like just hold, like it's so much easier to play the hold than the other Arabic oud. So a Turkish size oud might do the job. There are other smaller ouds with even smaller bowl, so it'll be thinner around this side. So there are options for you like that too. But first thing I try is to angle out and see how that works and play that way. Gives more room for the arm to come around. Hope I addressed that question. Okay, let's get back to some comments, questions. All right. Would knowing the scale length show me what correct strings to get? Yeah. So if it's like under 59 centimeters from the bridge to the nut, then you might need if you're playing Arabic tuning, then you might need a higher tension string set, like Kirschner Arabic strings, for a shorter length oud, so that you can adjust to that lower tension. If it's 58.5 centimeters, it'll be good for Turkish tuning, but get a Turkish set of strings so that you can tune it to Turkish tuning. If it's an Arabic oud meant for Arabic tuning, then you'll need a higher tension string set to get into the lower Arabic tuning. If it's 59 centimeters and above, then you just want to get any Arabic string set. Any Arabic string set will be fine in Arabic tuning. All right. Okay. Let's see. What is the effect of different woods in the Yildirim oud? Yeah, that's a good question. When it comes to oud types, wood types for the bowls, to be honest, I don't care so much. I don't have any preference between mahogany, paduk, rosewood, wenge, walnut. Walnut is the classic. The old instruments were always made out of walnut, so I'm a little bit partial to the traditions. What is the classic oud wood. Instrument wood is walnut. I also like mulberry. Mulberry is often used in Iran, but I don't know if they use that for ouds in particular. But when it comes to different wood types, some woods are lighter, some are heavier, so that comes into play. Some are different colors. Some people like the contrast between maple and wenge or something like that, or maple and mahogany. So they like to mix and match. For me, the most important thing is the soundboard. So for soundboards, they usually use spruce or cedar. Egyptian ouds, I've heard that they use pine as well. They prefer pine sometimes. But I'm partial to cedar. I like the warmth that cedar brings. Both these ouds are cedar tops, so that makes a difference. For woods, I don't really know too. You have to ask a luthier, when it comes to the wood types. They're the experts behind the tone woods. If it's a good tone wood, then that's the way to go. I don't think it's gonna make too much of a difference whether the bowl is made out of wenge or mahogany, paduk, or rosewood. One thing that does make a difference for the sound, though, is the fingerboard. This is sometimes not mentioned as much as it should be, I think. But the feel of the soundboard makes a big difference for the sound. Ebony, for example, is often used on ouds to... it fetches a higher price point, so it's good for those luthiers who are building higher price point ouds. They use ebony because it's very durable, great wood for the pegs and the fingerboard because they don't... it doesn't wear as easily, and it's very slippery, so you get that in the sound too. It's like so it creates a bit of a different sound, I think a bit more of a buzzier sound, a bit of a clean, crisp sound. But other woods for the fingerboard, like rosewood, um, like walnut, have a warmer sound, and they feel different too. Like this one, I don't know. I think it's walnut fingerboard. Not as durable as the ebony, of course. So it's not gonna last as long. But like I can't move my fingers so much. So like as not as it doesn't have that the glidiness that ebony has. So that's one thing that does affect the sound. Now, I love the sound of these duller fingerboard. I love it. Like it's just very round. It doesn't. My fingers don't slide around as much, but I can't play as fast on this oud as I can play on the ebony fingerboard. So there's playability things there too. Um, so nevertheless, those things have some factor into the sound, and of course the soundboard is king when it comes to the sound of the oud. Where the bracing is placed and all that, the thickness of the soundboard, the material of the soundboard, whether it's polished or unpolished, these all affect the sound. Trust the luthier, trust the person who built the oud when you're going to be buying an oud that's more than $1,000. Trust the luthier, ask them what they recommend, and tell them what sound you like and what you want in the oud, and they can tell you. Rosewood is great wood for ouds. I don't see why not. Let's see. Can the Yildirim oud be used with Arabic strings and get a genuine Arabic tone? Yeah, I think so. I think it's not going to be exactly an Arabic sound, but it's going to be maybe depending on your taste, it's going to be even better than an Arabic sound. Depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for that sustain, that echo, then it's beautiful. But the tone is going to be nice. I've done a lot of videos with the Yildirim oud in the Arabic tuning, but you need to with the strings, you need to get a higher tension string set for a shorter length oud. Mine is 58.5 centimeters, but I love the sound of it in Arabic tuning. Turkish ouds can be tuned to Arabic tuning and sound great. There's no reason why. All right, let's see what else we can talk about here. All right. So yeah, floating bridge ouds. Floating bridge ouds came about back in Munir Bashir's days. Munir Bashir had problems with his oud tuning it high, and so he actually invented the design of the floating bridge oud. Instead of the bridge pulling on the soundboard, which can cause damage if you tune the oud too high, the floating bridge puts pressure on the soundboard. So it's a different construction, a different design, a different way to make sound. There's a lot of debate about the floating bridge oud, if it's really a traditional sound or not. It definitely isn't a traditional sound. Does it sound good? Does it not sound good? There's a lot of debate about it. Some people love it, some people hate it. I have a little bit of a more balanced approach when it comes to the floating bridge oud. But yeah, ultimately I prefer the fixed bridge, glued on bridge ouds myself. Some of the difference of the sound, you could say that the classic fixed bridge ouds are a little bit muddier in tone, a little bit dense in tone, but the floating bridge ouds are a little bit more airy sound, maybe a little bit more echo, a little bit more reverberation in that way, a little bit more, I think, well suited to high pitch. So you often do see floating bridge ouds tuned to the high F tuning, from low F to high F. Yeah. So let's see here. What is meant by 3/4 minor sized? It's probably going to be 3/4 the size of a regular oud, but you'd have to ask whoever is making an oud that big. All right, let's see what else we can answer here. Yes, absolutely. The grade of the the wood does make a difference in sound quality, of course, without goes without saying. Um, some builders prefer, different types of grain as well in the soundboard. So it does that does make a big difference too. All right, let's see. So talking about oud prices now, when it comes to price of oud, I would not recommend an oud that is less than $400 American, unless you have tried the oud out in person and you're happy with it. But I wouldn't buy an oud that's less than $400. That's the minimum I think that you can get a decent oud for a beginner. That's gonna last you a few years until you're ready to, you know, do something else, get a better oud. Um, so yeah. So let's get into some other things that I wanted to deal with. So the last thing I wanted to mention is another source of where you can get a good oud for the best price. So Oud for Guitarists is going to be selling some ouds as well, and we're recommending. I've gone online and picked out a few ouds that are really what I think are the most reliable for the price. And what's most important for anyone who's getting into the oud is comfort and playability. So what you need is an oud with good action. Action is the distance between the strings from the fingerboard. Show you here if I can. Okay, you can see the distance there between the oud and the fingerboard. The distance shouldn't be more than 2.5 millimeters at the joint between the body and the neck. Shouldn't be more than 2.5 millimeters. If it's any higher than that, it might be harder to play. And the reason why I'm going to share with you these ouds that I picked out that I think are the most reliable, the most safe, and the most affordable, the reason I picked them out is that they're made for playability, basically. They've designed it so that the nut is all set up, the ideal height. The action is also good, and good quality strings are on the instrument when you get it. Also, an important thing for beginners is tuning the oud. Having a good set of pegs, well fitted, hand fitted into the holes is really important. Believe it or not, it's possible to get an oud that tunes well from the get-go, and with these friction pegs. So I want to share with you now some of the ouds that I recommend for beginners, for you buying your first oud. I'll send you the page right now. There we go. So this page here, you can check it out. I'll also put it in the description. Yeah, so ouds with a higher action, sometimes they sound really good too. That's the tricky thing about them. So like when the strings are farther away from the soundboard, they're going to be putting a little bit extra pressure on the instrument, and they're going to be producing a better, more resonance perhaps. So sometimes if the strings get too close, then you get buzz, and all that kind of thing. So this website is where you can see the ouds that I've chosen out and that you can actually order directly through me. And what I like about them is that this company that the ouds will be sending to you if you purchase them, they are working directly with luthiers in Turkey. So they are getting these ouds specifically built for Arabic tastes and for Arabic sound preferences, and also for your playability in mind, your ease of something that you're able to play well, and something that you can just get out of the box, tune it up, and hopefully it'll be ready to go. The worst thing that you want to avoid is buying a cheap oud from eBay, something under $400 that you don't know, where it's coming from. You don't know who's had it. I've done this myself. You don't want to get an oud like that you're just going to take it to the repair shop as soon as you get it, or you get it and the pegs, they don't move and they're hard to tune. So like, I don't want you to fall into that kind of predicament. I want you to have an oud that you can trust, you can buy right away, and get it sent to you fairly quickly. And as soon as you get it out of the box, the pegs fit well, the right strings are on it for the tuning that you want, and then you can get right into the oud quickly. So that's where you can check it out, on that link there. I'll put it in here again. And so tomorrow I'm going to be talking about other oud makers, especially ouds that are above $1,000, $1,000 and up. When you're talking about different types of ouds and makers, and we're going to talk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go online and I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see exactly some ouds that you find on eBay, and I'll tell you like which one I would buy and which one I wouldn't buy, or which one I would think about, or maybe this oud is good, maybe this oud isn't good, which one is overpriced, and you'll get my my opinion on some examples of some ouds. So for now, check out the link that I sent to you. You can check out the ouds that I recommend. These are my highest recommendations after I don't know how many years of playing the oud now, and looking for ouds myself online and getting into trouble buying ouds on eBay. These are my recommendations, and this is what I would recommend for you, especially if you're starting to get into the oud. If you want to get into the oud and you're not sure about it, you're really afraid of buying an oud online, then these are what I recommend, because this is going to be the safest approach for you. So tomorrow, watch out again for the YouTube live. Please subscribe so that you get notified when I'm going to be online, and make sure that you check that out, because we're going to do some cool things. We're going to listen to some oud examples. You're gonna hear some of the more differences between Turkish ouds, Arabic ouds, different makers as well. So I hope that you'll be able to join, and you'll get it. If you're on the subscriber list, you'll get I'll send you an email when we're going online with the YouTube live there as well. And if you guys have any other final questions before I go, now's the time to ask. For now, I'm just gonna play a little bit on this Turkish oud while your final questions get out there. And if I've missed anything, ask the question again if it's really important. Otherwise, you can email me at support@oudforguitarists. So you can check that out. So if there's any last questions, we'll get to them now. And thanks for joining. All right. Very cool conversation happening here. Thanks everyone for the comments and the questions. Yeah, good points. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of high-end ouds have defects. Um, Depends on how, depends on the maker. Really, I think. How much pride goes into the instrument. Um, some oud makers don't even care about how the oud looks. They just care about one thing, the sound. That's the most important thing to them. Every oud maker is different. Everyone approaches their art differently. So, it is a very good point there. Is buying a multi-oud considered cheating? uh, well, it's not really an oud if you wanna play it, say it that way. It's not really. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Don't buy Egyptian ouds, they are so hard to find a good one. What's the difference between oud and robab? Are you talking about um, the robab, Afghan robab? So the difference between oud and barbat, that's another question. Um, Barbat is a very new player on the scene, maybe in the last 35, 40 years. Barbat is inspired by the old Barbat that existed at one point in pre-Islamic Iran. No one really knows too much about exactly what that instrument looked like, but it looked like an oud. And it has slightly longer neck. Just the body is a bit smaller. Um, so the main barbat that you see in Iran right now, there's it's got a smaller body, deeper bowl. It's got a little bit different sound, punchier bass, a little bit weaker high end, high range voicing, um, and yeah, it's basically an oud, but with a little bit different form. There's not many functional differences between the barbat and the oud. Yeah. All right. So a lot of questions here. Really cool to see all these comments and questions, and we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. So thanks for watching. Again, check out the ouds at the link that I have there. I'm really excited about these ouds. I actually am gonna look into getting one myself, so that I can show it to you in person. Hopefully that'll happen one day. So here is the link again. Check that out. If you have any questions, check back with me, email me, and yeah. Have a good night, a good morning, good day, wherever you might be. All right. See ya.